This class is two parts today. I do the first part and Karen Hilbert does the second part. Karen does the part that all new agents ask. Please show me how to fill out a purchase offer. Right? Everybody's dying to know how to fill out a purchase offer. I say, for what? You have a buyer? No. Then let me know when you have a buyer, then we'll show you how to fill out. That's just. So what I want to teach you today is what you do to get a buyer, what you say to a buyer, taking a buyer through the process of what it takes to buy a home. Because no one knows. They might say, I bought a home 10 years ago. I know. No, you don't. Because it's a totally different market. Before we do that, my name is Jim White. That's my phone number. Every class I tell agents, if you have a question, anytime, call me. And I have had agents, I don't mentor them, but I'll answer any question you have if I can. So feel free to call me anytime you want. I have been with Keller Williams for 5 years. I'm on the Gen May team. I've been on the Gen May team since I started. Maria's on our team.
I'll plug there.
Anyway, so thanks for showing up, because if you want to be successful in this business, you got to show up. You can't sit home and say, I'll do it on Zoom, I'll do it on this. No, show up. Come in here, meet people, meet other agents, develop relationships so that when it comes time to, last but not least, you want to be successful, you got to come in. You got to show up and work from here. So having said that, I know some of you because you've been in some classes. We'll start over here.
I'm Chad Anderson. I'm a new agent. Very new. My dad's of like Sunday.
Really? You're brand new. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome. You're on a team.
Yeah, I'm Karina Swanson. I'm the executive admin for Team Hilbert, and I was licensed in Central New York. Came over here and took a working position, but I need to get back to selling. And this market's totally different than what I'm used to. So taking advantage of PW classes.
Cool.
I'm Maria Janik. I work for the Gen May team. Jim's on our team. I've been with the company for 5 years. I got relicensed in February. Listed my first house and sold my first house in November. Wrote my first offer, take that back, my second offer yesterday with a lot of Jim's help. We didn't get it, but hey, it happens.
Yeah.
I'm Tori Lawhorn. I'm new as of December, so I'm just taking the Ignite classes right now.
Good job.
We met before.
Yes, you
And we met.
We've met. Steve Christensen, I coach and teach at Kiva College, trying to get into part-time. I just started beginning of January.
Welcome. Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Go Bills.
That's it. I lost my.
And that's Jenna.
From the Gen May team, our rainmaker.
She's here to make sure I'm teaching this class correctly. But
Make sure I'm
Told me
taking,
to audit to make sure that Jim wasn't given wrong information.
I'm on that.
oh, but by the way, this is being recorded, so
Oh. All right, I'll stop. While
I can't use some of my typical language. Anyway,
Step one to having a career is showing up, so good job.
even she said it. You got to show up.
Michelle Brown, licensed as of November. Doing it part-time, thank you.
Why part-time?
I work full-time,
What do you do?
accounts payable supervisor.
Cool. It's okay to be part-time. Because you're gonna find a point in time where you're gonna give up that other gig and.
That's what I'm hoping.
Someday, you work hard at it.
I'm Dana Lamo. I've been licensed for a month now. I'm going through the Ignite. I'm going at it full time.
Cool.
And I'm Tracy Smith. I've been with Keller Williams since September. And today is my last Ignite class. So I'm excited about that.
I'm Hunter Doran. I've been licensed since November, doing it part-time, because I teach also
Where you teach?
out in Pavilion at the elementary school. So I work with all the school kids.
Jim Clark, I'm a returning former agent. I worked for Bruce Wade. I worked for Hunt back in the late nineties, early 2000s. Yeah, back in
Good,
so
well, welcome.
Hi, I'm Brielle. I'm a preschool teacher at the Children's Center for Writing. I've been licensed since December and I'm kind of doing both full time and exhausted. Sorry. Trying to get rid of my preschool and I like it.
Good to see you again. I just saw her Saturday. Where did I see you? Open house?
Yeah. This is-
Busy open house. What'd you learn?
Oh, you're putting me on the spot. I learned a lot that day. Just how to talk to people, I guess, because I'm not shy or anything, but I was overwhelmed. I didn't really know what to say.
Well, you were shadowing, so,
Yeah.
you know, I'm picking on you a little bit, so.
Yeah,
It wasn't, yeah, she was just kind of shadowing another agent to see what you should say and what you should do at an open house.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. Nobody has any buyers, you might have one. But you're just starting out, and where you're probably gonna get your business mainly, unless you get a listing, but we're not talking about listings today, we're talking about buyers. It's from buyers. So where do we find buyers? Anybody have an idea?
In your cell phone.
Yeah.
That's in your cell phone is your biggest one. I mean, I would be calling and reaching out to everybody you have in your cell phone. To ask them what,
If they know of anybody that has any real estate needs.
yeah, but not all of anybody that's thinking of buying, selling, or investing in real estate. It's a better way to say it, but you got it. You're close. You want to reach out to everybody in your phone. How else?
Facebook,
Facebook,
social media friends.
social media. If you're not doing that, this morning we did lead gen. From 9, we didn't do it 9 to 11. We did it from 9 to 10:30. And Shamar, some of you may know Shamar. He was reaching out on Facebook to see if he just put it out. He was private messaging. He had like 30 people he private messaged. Hey, know of anybody thinking of buying or selling, investing? And 3 people reach back out to him and say, I am. Now, if
don't
he
know if
hadn't
they'll
have done that, who knows? Would they have reached out to him? Probably not. How else? So social media, your phone, what else?
Just going out in the world, going out in public, talking to people.
Right. Go to Wegmans, go to Aldi's, go to Target. Where else do you go? I don't know.
Family.
Any place you go, family,
Friends.
walk around those stores with Keller Williams gear on. Those T-shirts that say I'm a realtor.
How many people, you've mentioned that before, where you were standing in line checking out and somebody asked you, do you work for Keller Williams? And you ended up getting a lead and sold a house from it.
Right.
Just because you're wearing the gear. I mean, that doesn't.
Doesn't have to be Keller Williams, but you know, get those little name tags even if you don't want to buy a shirt or a jacket or whatever. Just go walk around the store. You don't have to go buy anything. That's why you'd be surprised how many people will say, oh, wow, it's real estate market. Tell me about the real estate market. But you got to be out there. You have to talk to people. How else? Say it again. open houses, she said.
Yep.
Now, you guys don't have listings yet. Maybe you're getting one. God bless you if you do. But you don't have any. So what you do is you reach out to other agents that have listings. Or you post on Facebook, beginning of the week, or middle of the week, hey, I'm available to host an open house. You'd be surprised, because most of the agents that have been doing it for a while, they don't want to do an open house. They have to hold it, but they don't necessarily want to host it. They'd rather stay home with their kids or work with a buyer and go show them a house. So there's an opportunity for you to meet people that are looking to buy a home. Now, I tried to tell Brielle and the other girl, what's her name? Princess. She was hosting the open house, really. Brielle was just kind of watching. Now, I don't know what they did or what they didn't do. It was busy. But the time I was there, they were both just standing there. And there were people all over. Now, if it were me, that's a whole nother class on how to host an open house. But those buyers that noted on the sign-in sheet that they weren't represented by an agent, I'd be on them like white on rice, let me tell you. I'd be following them around, make sure I answer any questions, how you doing, how long you been looking for a home? You know, there's a whole process you want to talk to people. That's how you get buyers. I've gotten buyers from open houses that even said that they were working with an agent. I wasn't trying to steal them, don't get me wrong. But just in conversation, how long you been looking for a home? Oh, God, I've written 14 offers. Haven't got one accepted. I'm getting so sick of my agent because now he or she doesn't answer the phone anymore. Blah, blah, blah. Bam. I got him. Yeah. But you gotta work it. You gotta work it. You gotta know what to say. So what do you say? You meet somebody that's thinking of buying a home. They gave you a little sheet. You can use these. They're all pretty much the same. They're just worded a little bit different. But what are you trying to do when you meet someone that's interested in buying a home? Whether you meet them or you're on the phone with them, whatever it is. What's your goal? Anybody know? Other than to sell them a home.
So your appointment, get in front of them,
Say it again.
set an appointment.
Set
get
an
in front of
appointment. Your goal is to set what is called a buyer's consultation. Okay? You want to meet for an hour, 45 minutes, however long it takes to sit down with that person to talk to him or her about the home buying process. And those are just some questions you could ask somebody, such as, would you find value in getting together to talk about the home buying process? What are they going to say to that?
Yes.
Why not?
I mean, if they say no, you're wasting your time. Of course, they're going to say yes. Great, let's meet, at our office tomorrow with 6 workers, 7:30. What's better for you? That's the easiest thing to do. But you want to meet them here if you can. Or at Starbucks or wherever it might be. I'd meet them here. You'll come here throughout the day or evening and you'll see agents in that room, other rooms we have in the building, having a buyer's consultation. Because the purpose of the buyer's consultation is to explain to that person what I'm going to go through. And at the end of it, to get an agreement that they're going to work with you to help buy a home. You may sit down with a person and after an hour, you might decide you don't want to work with them. It could very well be. Your time is most important. You know, you don't want to be spending time with people that you don't think it's gonna work. Okay? Now, the other thing is, don't, and may have said this in other classes I've taught. It's not about the dollars. It's about the units. Which is most important, meaning there's some agents saying, I'm not gonna sell a house unless it's over $250,000. Well, good luck. It's the number of units you close in the year that's gonna drive your business. Last year, Maria will tell you, I sold a $30,000 house and I sold $1 million house. Close to $1 million, $995,000. I didn't care. Because the guy that bought the $30,000 house and the guy that bought the $995,000 house knows the same amount of people. Because over time, this is a referral business, is what it is. It's, you know, you were in a bit, it's all referrals. It's true. So if you have a buyer that buys a $50,000 home, I don't know, right? And you take care of them and the process is good and you follow up with them, they're gonna refer people to you. Hey, she helped me out, she was great. You know, give her a call. Or that person will call you and say, hey, call my buddy Bob because he wants to buy a house. The guy buying the $1 million house and he knows, he don't know any more people than the other guy. So don't think of dollars, think of units. How many units how many people can I help? Okay. So what you want to do is you want to get them in here. But there's a few things you want to ask maybe beforehand. Like if it's your phone call or you met them at Wegmans or whatever, and they're really serious about buying a home. What are some questions you should be asking? Any idea?
What size house you looking for?
Okay,
Do you currently own or lease?
owner lease,
How much you wanna spend?
how much you want to spend,
Which timeline?
timeline,
Location. Location,
I'm sorry,
location, like where are you? living?
where you want to be,
What are your finances? Are you doing cash? Are you doing a loan?
Pre-qualified.
That's it.
so. You might want to ask them, are you currently working with an agent? That's an important question. So you're currently working with an agent? No. Great. What's your current situation? You own a home, do you rent? Where you at? Ah, we're renting, great. What would be a question you could ask real quick about renting?
You get out of your lease?
Yeah, do you have a lease? Yeah. No, month to month, okay, great. What's your motivation? Why do you want to buy a home? That is the most important question. Why do you want to buy a house? I'm tired of renting. Yeah, I don't blame you. You're paying somebody else's mortgage. Take advantage of the tax, deductions you get from owning a home. Just a few little things. How soon do you want to be in your new home? I gotta be in a new home by St. Patrick's Day. I don't know, I'm just picking something out here. Well, what's that tell you?
Better get on it.
You better be putting an offer on a house like today. And I'll go through that with you a little bit, you can see what that means. Okay, but you want to look at their motivation. Why do they want to buy a house? And how soon do they want to be in a house? I gotta be in a house by Easter. Okay, great, let's get to work. Because it's about, how long? How long does it take to close?
45, 60 days.
Let's just use 60. It could close quicker, maybe. But it takes about 60 days to close on a home, so you always want to be working backwards when you're having that conversation. I gotta be in a new house by Memorial Day. Okay, because I want to have a party in my backyard with all my family and a cookout. Okay, you might say, why is Memorial Day important? You always want to keep asking questions, right?
Dig deep.
I tried to tell her yesterday, and not her fault, you gotta dig deep, keep asking questions.
The guy called and I asked why.
That's okay, no.
No, but the reason he told me,
I know.
I said, why you sell, I said, do you have a house to sell? And he said, yeah, he goes, well, relocating, I said, oh, where are you relocating from? So he told me. He said, they're doing a buyout, we're doing a buyout. He talks to him, guy's what, getting divorced, so his wife's buying him out, and that's why. Somewhere else.
So I just keep asking and asking that. No, I wasn't picking on you, Maria, but
Company's taking care of it, the company's gonna buy him out, cause lots of times if you move from
Yeah.
a different state.
well, it
then
wasn't a reload company. Him and his girlfriend
Oh, girl.
own the home together, and they're splitting up, and she's gonna buy them out. And I, of course, I saw, so sorry to hear that. And he says, I don't worry about it. I don't like her anyway. You know, you gotta talk to people, because what's it do when you talk to them? A, you find out information, but what else? It builds rapport. They think, and you are, but they think you're interested in them and their life and whatever they're doing. But motivation's huge. How soon you want to buy a house? Why do you want to buy a house? Just keep asking. I need a fenced in yard. Why do you need a fenced in yard? I have a dog. Oh, great. What kind of dog do you have? Keep asking questions. Dig.
Big things, school districts, schools.
Stay away from schools.
Really?
Well, and I'll show you when we get a little further. Because that can be
I know when I was in people.
it could be a fair housing problem.
Yeah,
Talk about, you gotta direct them to go to the government website with
Yeah.
the ratings. and all
Just
that.
be careful
Well,
what.
if they say, I wanna be in Pittsburgh School District.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Or, you know, I want to be on the east side, you know. Are schools important to you? I don't know. Do they have kids? You can ask them if they got.
Yeah.
Just try not to get too. Because fair housing is a big deal,
oh, yeah. Well,
and it should be.
I mean, most people ask me, I gotta be in break, you know, and.
Then they gotta be in break.
You know,
So, big question. If you were to buy a home, how would you pay for it? Would you pay cash or would you have to get a mortgage? That's the easiest question to ask. What do you mean cash? Are you crazy? I don't have cash. You'd be surprised how many cash buyers there are right now.
You don't wanna offend somebody by saying, are you pre-approved for a mortgage?
Correct.
Say,
I was just
"Or okay."
trying to took the words out of my mouth. Don't assume, don't say to them, well, do you have a pre-qual? Because you probably got to get a mortgage. Don't offend them. Always say, would you pay cash or would you get a mortgage? And a lot of times they'll laugh and they'll say, oh, cash, oh my God, I don't have cash.
And
We never know. They're getting it from mom and dad, somebody signing a gift letter to them. I don't, you know. But always ask. So you want to find out if they're working for an agent, how they're gonna pay for a house, what the timeline is. Okay? What's their motivation? Why do you want to buy a house? Anyway. So you find those things out, you can just do that in a phone conversation. Yesterday I did that, you know, just boom, 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 boom. I'm just used to doing it, so that's why scripting, we talk about it. Scripting is so important. So that when you're gonna have a conversation, it just flows. You know what to say. It just comes out. Doesn't have to be scripting like I gotta follow this script. I mean, take the best parts of it and you want to ask a lot of questions, but you want to set a day and time to meet the person to do a buyer's consultation. Because you want to show them the value you add to the process. Because you do add value. Okay. Now, I use these slides when I do a buyer's consultation. I put it right on the screen. So I talk about and I take notes when I'm meeting with them. What's your dream home look like? What kind of home are you looking for? How many bedrooms? How many bathrooms? You need a garage, those kinds of things. They'll tell you, what they're looking for. They might say, I want to be in Brighton schools. Well, you kind of get that information. What monthly payment am I comfortable with? Now, you're not a banker. But if they say to you, you might say to them, so they're renting, how much you currently paying for rent? I pay $1,500 a month for rent. Okay. You can buy a pretty nice house for $1,500 a month. But if they say to you, well, my rent's $900 and I'd like to keep it at that, and I want to be in Brighton schools. Not likely.
Well, if you have $100,000 in the bank.
Well, they're gonna have to tell you that. So you kind of know where they're headed. If they say, God, I really only want to spend about $1,000 a month. You want to say to them, do you have any money set aside for closing cost down payment? Okay. Yeah, geez, I got $5,000. Well, okay, you know already that they're gonna need some help. So that tells you, you need to hook them up with a lender that maybe has a grant program that for first-time home buyers, there's lots of angles and ways you can go. But that's why it's so important to sit and meet with them to find not over the phone, face to face. Find out what you need to do. Now, there are some people that agents that'll say, I'm not meeting with anybody until they get a pre-qual. You can get somebody pre-qual just because they don't have one. I'll show one house one time without a pre-qual. Then they gotta get a pre-qual. Now, if they say to you, hey, I got a pre-qual with Rocket Mortgage. Nothing wrong with Rocket Mortgage. But here, this is a competitive market that we're in. It's the best way to describe it. It's dog eat dog. There's multiple offers on houses. Last week alone, there were 4 on the east side that one had 27 offers, one had 39 offers, one had 57 offers, and one had 41 offers. And they all sold for probably 50,000 over list price. So if your buyers with Rocket Mortgage and this buyers with GRB, Premium Mortgage, Prime Lending, and the dollars are the same. The dollars are exactly the same. They're not taking your offer. They're just not. They're going with one of these. Anybody know why?
Local.
No, not you two. Anybody else?
Locally, you go face to face with them, rather than over the phone,
Yeah, kind of.
quicker to get a hold of them.
Can you hold on 1 second? Yes, ma'am. Yeah, I'm teaching class. I thought there was a problem. I'll call you back. Bye. Sorry about that. There's a buyer's agent, that's you. There's a listing agent. They work for the seller, right? Listing agent wants to know that your offer, which is great, is going to close. And if your offers with the 3 I mentioned, there's other good ones locally. House Capital, Canandaigua National, I mean, you can go on, but the 3 we typically use, you probably do too. The premiums, Prime Lending, GRB might be. But they know, they have confidence that when you say you're going to close on March 12th, that bank is gonna make sure that's gonna close. So it's really important. It which gives you kind of a leg up. When writing an offer.
I feel like a lot of the conversations I've had with people when they went with like the more national names, they got like phone trees and leaving messages and not the
That-
same kind of like timeframes and.
Rocket Mortgage is
Responsiveness.
noted for giving someone a prequal. But not counting the property taxes. In the payment.
They won't always give you a monthly mortgage payment either. When they're financing everything. They'll wait till you're under contract, but how does the buyer know how much they're gonna
Exactly.
be spending?
You want somebody you can trust. Just my 2 cents. So you were talking about payment when you're meeting them. You're talking about time frame. Again, you wanna, come on, how soon do you wanna be in a home? You know, I wanna help you. Let's get you in that new home by whatever the date is. Well, my lease is up in August. Okay, well, what if you find a home in June? What are you gonna do? Anybody know? Can you get out of the lease? I mean, can you get out early? If you were to close on a house March 1st, you wouldn't have a payment due until May 1st. So you almost kind of have a free month in there. Nothing's free. You're paying for it at closing in prepaid interest. But you don't have a mortgage payment, so even if you bought the home and you still had to make a month's payment on the rent, you know, you're close. And if you really want to buy a house, you got to figure out a way to do it. You know? So time frame is really important. Work backwards 60 days. It could be done sooner, but try to use that 60-day period. What loan is right for me? Just depends on their situation, depends on their credit score. That's why you gotta get a prequal. You gotta have them talk to a local lender. And get a prequel. They have to, you know, provide their social security number, their what their income is, their debts. Because banks look at what's called debt to income ratio. Okay, how much income you make and how much debt you have. FHA, VA and USDA, and I'll talk a little bit about them. They give you a better debt to income ratio than what a conventional loan would do. But a conventional loan will get accepted quicker on a purchase offer than one of those three. USDA, does anybody know what that is? Other than you, because I know you know.
Farmers. farmland and stuff like that.
It has to be.
It's more rural areas, not necessarily a farm, but like I wrote an offer the other day for a house in Hamlin. He didn't use USDA, but that could be USDA. It's a government-backed loan where you don't have to have a down payment. Okay, but it's backed by the federal government. FHA, similar, but you can use an FHA loan for anything. Requires a 620 credit score. Most people think, oh my God, I gotta put 20% down, you know. FHA 3.5% is the minimum. You can get some conventional loans for 3 and 5%. So people don't need to have 20%. 20% is great if they could do it. It reduces their payment, not because they're putting more down, but it eliminates what's called PMI, which is private mortgage insurance, which is a piece in their mortgage payment that raises it if they don't put 20% down. VA gets a bad rap. VAs are for veterans. They don't have to have a down payment, and they don't pay any PMI as well. It's a great program. Nobody wants to accept a VA offer. Now, here's why. These three are all tougher. Because part of buying a home, if you get an offer accepted, whether it's any of those three or a conventional mortgage, the bank does what's called a bank appraisal. Okay? Anything backed by the federal government, they're a whole lot tougher on appraisals, especially for repairs that would need to be made before the loan can close. So if you're showing somebody a house and they're getting one of those three kinds of mortgages, and you see peeling paint, missing handrails, cracked windows, forget it. Gonna be a problem. Well, bad word, I shouldn't say forget it, I mean. Could be a challenge, let's put it that way. For the seller to accept it because they don't want to fix anything. Now, if it's a house that's been on the market a while that hasn't had any offers, that's different. Go all day long. But those are three big government-backed loans, and then there's the regular conventional mortgage, which again, you don't have to put 20% down. What is some have programs as little as 3% down on conventional mortgage. Depends on your credit score and where you're at. Everything depends on your credit score. But 620 is typically the minimum. So if you talk to somebody and they said, yeah, my credit score is like 400. Doesn't mean you don't want to work with them. It's just going to take some time. You're going to have to nurture those people, get them hooked up with the right lender that's going to work with them to improve their credit score so that when they are ready, stay with them and then they're going to work with you. Questions? I can recommend some names. They might work with some different people in the Hilbert team. I know they do a lot with Fairway Mortgage. They're good.
Yeah.
I wonder she's not here today bringing pizza in.
They're
but
relatively new, aren't they? Fairway, or they've been around.
a couple of years.
Yeah.
We have an agent that, brought them in. We're trying to work more with our affiliates and lenders, get to know them more. And have
Sure.
them tell us
No,
about their
that's a
programs.
great idea.
You can always set up a lunch with a lender and
Oh,
sit down and
yeah.
talk with them.
If you reach out to a lender, they're gonna take you to lunch.
Literally where I was this morning.
What'd you
It's
get?
all about food.
Oh, I said.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought they
literally-
gave you a bag.
No,
Oh, I'm telling you, they'll buy your lunch, they'll give you all kinds of crap.
literally where I was this morning. I had breakfast with a lender,
Who with who? If I can ask.
Alliance. They
Alliance.
reached out to me and
They're
said they
good.
wanted to talk to me about the program.
Yeah.
I said, sure.
No, any chance you get to do that. Before the pandemic, and I don't know why they're not back more, but. We used to always have lenders in here once a week, putting on some kind of presentation and. Anytime you can get free food, I mean, Jesus, show up. Really? Because they'll bring food in and they'll bring all kinds of goodies and because they want your business. Because they want you to bring them a buyer to get pre-approved and you're gonna write an offer and that's how it works. There's a lot of great lenders. Our team mainly works with Genesee Regional Bank, Premium Mortgage, Prime Lending. Now, we've done deals with others. We work with lenders and attorneys that give us things. How it works. Scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, they pay for stuff for us and we give them stuff, how it works. But you want to partner with a lender, for sure. Okay. Everybody's familiar with a baseball diamond, I think. Cool. You could. I thought about taking this thing and making it a football field, but baseball probably works. So once you're all set, you're gonna show them this process. You can. Or your own process or your own diagram. But once you start working with them, you're gonna start the home search. Okay? We're up to bat and we got a base hit, we're going toward first base, you're gonna look at homes. You could look at 40 homes, you could look at one home, you could look at one home, write one offer, get it accepted, I've had that happen. You look at 40 homes, write 40 offers and still be looking because you haven't gotten an offer accepted. It's just. You just gotta keep going. Okay, but. You're searching for a home and you finally get to first base, you got an offer accepted. And that's why it's so important to explain this to buyers. In your purchase offer, you're gonna write in there that you're gonna give the seller. Or you're gonna give the seller's broker or whoever's noted in the contract, sometimes the seller's attorney, an earnest money deposit. Okay? Some people call it a good faith deposit. Earnest money deposit. And the first thing a buyer's gonna say to you when you explain it, well, yeah, I'm putting 20% down. No. Two totally different things. Okay, well, then what's the earnest money deposit? Earnest money deposit is tell the seller, I'm serious, I want to buy your house. Okay. Used to be you would give a minimum of 1% of whatever the offer was. Used to be. Okay, so $200,000 house, you give them $2,000. Not anymore. Much as they can possibly do. Is the way I phrase it. Now, if they're putting 20% down on a $200,000 house, you automatically know they got $40,000. They got to have more because they're going to have closing costs, right? So if they say to you, yeah, I got like $75,000. You ask them, how much you got? So if they say, yeah, I'll give them $3,000. Say, you might want to up that a little bit. Maybe make it 5, make it 10. And then you explain to them that that money is held in escrow, doesn't go anywhere. No one can touch your $10,000, whatever number it is. Okay, and that money is applied toward your closing cost and down payment when you close. So if you're going to need at the end of the day $60,000 closing cost down payment money when you close, right? And you've already given them 10. What's that tell you?
Come up with 51.
You only need 50. Now, there is a downside to giving them lots of money. You want to know what that is?
You back out, that money's gone.
Kind of, yeah. Your offer, it might have some contingencies in it, right? First of all, it needs attorney approval, and I'll talk about that in a minute. If you're writing an offer that's going to have an inspection, that's a contingency, okay? You're writing an offer, they're getting a mortgage, that's a contingency. So if for some reason they can't get the mortgage or they back away after the inspection, or you don't get attorney approval, they get that money back. Okay? We'll talk about the last part of that in a minute. Okay? So we got an offer accepted, they give an earnest money deposit. That's within 2 days of the seller accepting your offer. They don't need to give you a check when you write the offer. No. They can if they want, but they have 2 days to get the earnest money deposit to the listing agent. I always try to tell people to get a bank check. I don't like to do personal checks. I like to do bank check. That's all part of what Karen's gonna talk about later, because that's a whole purchase offer, okay? Now, in the purchase offer, you gotta have attorney approval. The buyer has an attorney, the seller has an attorney. Okay? Now, if the buyer doesn't have a lender and you've recommended a lender, you're probably gonna have to recommend an attorney. If they say, yeah, I'll use the attorney that did my divorce. They can do it. You wanna have a real estate attorney, somebody that knows what they're doing. Somebody that boom, 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 that can get it, just like a lender, that's gonna get it closed and do their job. But you recommend a good attorney that does real estate. Now, I'm sorry,
I was just gonna say, you wanna stay away from the attorneys that are always in court, because you'll never.
you'll never get a hold of them, yeah. So. In a purchase offer, attorney approval period is 3 days. The buyer's attorney has to approve it in 3 days, and the seller's attorney has to approve it in 3 days. So let's just say you get your offer accepted and everything's good, and then your buyer calls you the next day and says, you know what, I changed my mind. I don't want to buy that house. Okay? You're probably kicking and swearing and whatever, because you got an offer, what? Hey, got an offer, I don't want to buy the house, I've changed my mind, I hate it, blah, 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 okay. So what you do is you get a hold of the buyer's attorney and you say, disapprove that contract, he or she doesn't want to move forward. No problem, they get that earnest money back. Now, the seller can do the same thing. So maybe in that attorney approval period, they get a better offer. Now, what typically will happen is that if they're a decent agent, which most are, they're gonna call you up and say, look, we got a better offer, can your buyer match it, go up, whatever. And you figure out if that's possible. And you gotta change the contract, but that's secondary. That happens. Happened to me. If that were to happen, they would call their attorney up and say, don't approve that one, I got a better one. They would get their earnest money back. Okay, now, in your purchase offer, you wrote in whether or not you were gonna do a home inspection. A lot of buyers think they automatically have to have a home inspection. Not true. Especially if they're bringing dad to the showings. Try not to have dad come to the showings. You can help it. Or if dad does come, you build a relationship with dad. First thing you do is you take them down in the basement, you show them where the sump pump is, you show them the circuit breakers, it's 200 amp, you open it up, you got a flag, look at this, dad's gonna say, oh my God, you're great. You're gonna look out for my daughter. Trust me when I tell you that, it's true. Because dads think they know everything. I'm a dad. They're looking out for their kids, you know, I mean. But you're gonna write in there whether or not you're gonna do a home inspection. Now, if you go to a house and show it to them, you know it's got a new roof, new furnace, hot water heater's a year old. House looks to be in great shape. What's a home inspector gonna find?
Be surprised. I had a deal with my home inspector,
Wow,
Jim Sam, blew it at me.
yep. So here's the deal. Home inspectors are paid to find something wrong. it could not even be a big deal, but if they see a little crack in the tile in the kitchen floor, they're gonna note it. You know, they see a little crack, what was that crack you saw? I mean, the stupidest thing you ever heard of. You know, a lady says, there's a crack right there, I wanna have a home inspection. The house is settling, I mean, that's all it is, but
Come to my house.
if they're paid to find something wrong. Not a bad thing, they're just, hey. And basically it's to say, hey, after you close on the house, you might wanna look at fixing this and this and this and this, you know. It's different if there's a big crack in the foundation and, you know, there's a hole in the roof. That's different. Well, let's say you do a home inspection, okay? And they provided, you gotta do that typically within, you know, I would do it within, I don't know, 35 days anyway. Okay, you get a report, you go through it with the buyer. And there might be 5 things that the buyer wants the seller to fix. Okay? The seller can do a few things. Seller can say, I don't know, fix anything. If that's the case, the buyer can say, well, if you're not gonna fix them, I'm not gonna buy your house. Get out of the contract, get the earnest money back. Buyer might say, I'm not gonna fix anything, but I'll tell you what, I'll give you $1,000 credit at closing, you fix it. If your buyer thinks that's good, then great, do that. Seller might say, hey, I'm not fixing those 2 things, but I'll fix these 3 things. If that works for your buyer, great. But once you're through that, assuming the buyer still wants to move forward, you're gonna release that contingency. There's a form the buyer has to sign to say, hey, all is good. We're releasing the inspection contingency. It's no longer contingent on home inspection. Now, if you don't do a home inspection, you waive it. And that's not an issue, obviously. You're not doing a home. The process will go a lot quicker as well if you don't do a home inspection.
And you could also, at that point, if you're the buyer and they don't wanna fix X, Y, Z, they only wanna fix Z. And you're real adamant about it, then if you can't come to some sort of agreement, you can also at that point cancel, is that correct?
Oh, no.
So, or just,
You gotta agree.
you can cancel it and be released from the contract, saying that they couldn't come to some kind of agreement with, with the inspection.
Now,
You can get it disapproved at the attorney appraisal spot and also get out of it
Yeah.
at the inspection period spot.
now. In today's market, here's how this works. They're reviewing offers Monday at 2 and, you know, they're gonna have multiple offers. They're probably gonna accept an offer that is not doing a home inspection. Now. I always preface that by telling my buyers. And do that in a text message, so you've got. Say, look. Don't say this is my advice, but just say this is what's gonna happen. You could waive it and stand a better chance, something like that. And 9 times out of 10, they're gonna say, okay, I'm not doing a home inspection. They could say, I wanna do a home inspection. And then you cross your fingers, your offer gets accepted. Probably won't, if it's multiple offers. You know, if nothing else, you use that as a teaching moment for your buyer to say, look, they accepted an offer and the other one was because they weren't doing a home inspection. Some people are just stubborn, they gotta have a home inspection. I want somebody to tell me the house is not gonna fall down. Oh my God, come on. House is not gonna fall down.
Another realtor was telling me that she encourages her clients to bring a home inspector with them to the showing. And then they don't like write anything down because it can't be official at that point.
Right.
But just.
So there's some home inspectors that charge like, $100 to do like a 30-minute home inspection. Gotta be careful with those because, you know, the seller doesn't want a home inspector coming to that showing for 30 minutes, pulling on a freaking ladder and going up on the roof. That's not cool. What they typically will look at is more health and safety issues. So they're gonna look at the breaker box, they're gonna look at the basement lot in the basement. They'll do a quick check of how many GFI outlets they've got. You gotta have a GFI outlet anywhere 6 feet of water. Not all homes have them. I mean, you can put those in, but they always come up noted on a home inspection and the buyer's like, oh my God, it doesn't have, I'm gonna get electrocuted. It's like a $20 fix. But yeah, that's happened. I've done that. But your buyer's gotta pay for that. You know. If it means peace of mind, I guess, right? But don't ever tell anyone not to do a home inspection. Okay? I always preface it by saying, I'm not telling you not to do a home inspection, but this is how it works, your decision.
I'm just curious, do you ever, in that situation where they want a home inspection, encourage them to put in like the highest price possible?
You know, I've encouraged them to put the highest price
No,
possible,
you know-
even if they're not doing a home inspection.
Like we said, like, obviously, I just sold my condo, I don't know, 2 years ago during that, after the COVID thing, and we took the offer that was with, a home inspection, but had more money down.
That's okay, yeah, and that's the thing, and I was gonna get to that in a little bit. There's two parts to an offer, right?
Yeah, I just
There's
wanted.
price, there's price, you know, price is really important. But there's also terms. Terms are. How are you paying for it? Are you getting a mortgage? How much you putting down? I sometimes look at those things and who are they financed with? Right? How much you putting down, how quick you can close? Are you doing a home inspection? Those are terms. So you might get an offer that's got 5,000 more than this offer, but this one has better terms. Earnest money deposit is a big one. Sellers might go with that offer because it's better terms. You always want to go as high as you can. And we'll talk about doing that in a little bit too. Okay, so we released that contingency or we haven't done one, either way. Now the bank is going to order what's called a bank appraisal. Okay? Everybody know what a bank appraisal is? Not you two. And not you.
Then where the bank goes out, sends an assessor out to get the value of the house of the mortgage. What they'll,
So the bank. You, the buyer, you've got to pay for that. It's about $450 somewhere in there for an appraisal. The appraiser goes out basically to tell the bank and the buyer, but more for the bank, that home is worth what they're loaning you. Okay? Bank appraisal, it doesn't take but half an hour, maybe. Sometimes they don't even go in the house. They do what's called a drive-by. Take a picture, but if nothing else, they measure the outside of the house. They may go in, take some pictures of the rooms, just to make sure it does have 2.5 baths or whatever it might be. But more importantly, what they're doing is they're looking at comparable sales in the area. You know, show me another house that's got 3 beds, 1.5 baths that has sold for $250,000 in the area. That's all they want. They want to have a comparable to say it's worth that much. It's become a lot easier in the last 1.5 to 2 years because things have sold for so much higher that now they got comps. That's what an appraisal does. Okay. Through this process, your buyer should be sending the lender all the stuff they're asking for, and they'll ask for 1 million things 40 times. Because the buyer, Maria will tell you, they call you, oh my God, I can't stand this. They've asked me 16 times for the same thing. Well, they will. You know, they want pay stubs, they want updated, you know, W-2 forms, all those things you gotta give them. Bank statements, show me where this money's coming from, you know, that they wanna know. That's part of the loan process, okay? So once you get the appraisal, they know it's worth what they're loaning you. You're giving them all your documents, you prove that you actually make $100,000 a year, you know, because it's come up. On that phone. Matt, you know, shoot. Hey, Matt, can I come back? Okay, bye. No lender. Working on a pre-qual for somebody. Anyway, where was I?
Releasing.
I lost track of it. They want to know everything you've told them is true. Because they filled out an application online probably that say they make X and they have these debts and whatever. It's happened, you know, everything looks good. Oh, by the way, the guy pays $200 a week in child support. And the bank didn't know that. Now he doesn't qualify for the mortgage. Happen. If that were to happen, he would get that earnest money back. Okay, because your offer is contingent on he or she getting a mortgage. But once they issue what is called mortgage commitment, means everything's lining up, they've you know, they got the appraisal, you've got all your documents to them, you make what you say you make, your debts are what you say they are. House is worth what you think it's worth. They issue a letter saying, hey, we're issuing mortgage commitment. Sometimes that's based on also you getting them another document. That's happened to me. But pretty much once they issue mortgage commitment, you're in third base. If you can use this and show it to a buyer, Maria knows who the lady is. I have a client, her name is Edna Cologne. I first met her at a Starbucks. Spoke very little English. So I went through this with her in a Starbucks. And the first house she bought, because she purchased two and sold one, I've lost track. She called me up. Swear to God. Jim, I'm on second base. It made me feel so good that she remembered. Yeah. So yeah, you're on third base. At this point, the attorney, remember that high-priced real estate attorney that we said you better get? Not high-priced, it's like $400 or $500. All this time, they've been working to make sure your buyer gets clear title to that house. Title to a house is like a birth certificate. Shows everybody that's owned it. But what they're looking for, well, first of all, they want to make sure the buyer has clear title. Meaning, there's no liens on the property, nobody's brothers, cousins, sisters, mother, father from 27 years ago still doesn't have their name on the title of that home. Once they get the title is then sent to the bank. Because the bank has to have the title to the house. Once they get all that stuff to the bank then issues what is called a clear to close. That has to be done by law 3 days prior to closing. Okay, so if you were in your purchase offer, you were supposed to close tomorrow, and you don't have a clear close, you're not closing tomorrow. You're not closing until business days, what, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week, possibly. Got to be 3 days. Your buyer is gonna be sent what's called a closing disclosure. Basically to say. Here's what the terms are, this is what your payment's gonna be, they have to sign all those docs, send it back. That then goes to. The buyer's attorney, the seller's attorney, and the bank attorney. We're an attorney state, everything has an attorney. And then they schedule a closing date. Okay? Once you got some of that information and they say, okay, closing's Tuesday at 1 o'clock. You're then gonna get a hold of your buyer and gonna say, hey, congratulations. You're gonna close they already know it. Closing Tuesday at 1. We need to do what's called a final walkthrough. Final walkthrough is you take them back to the house. And you go through it to make sure all the windows are there and the water's working and the heat's on and. You know, there's no holes in the roof and none of the windows are broken, but everything is like it was. When you saw it. And I like to do that as close to closing as possible, meaning. If closing is on Tuesday, your buyer says, well, can we do the final walkthrough on Sunday? No. You're not. I won't let you. Because if you do the final walkthrough, everything is good. And Monday, somebody breaks in and steals the refrigerator and the stove. Off. But you want to do it as close to closing as you can. Once you do that, they then go to closing, they sign a bunch of papers, they give them the keys. That's their house. Now. This whole process from here to here could take as much as 60 days. Could be done sooner, just depends. If it's cash, you're gonna run across cash buyers. You know, you can close in. I usually write in 30 days, but you might be able to close quicker because there's no bank involved. There's no appraisal, there's. Nothing to do but get title of the house. And if the attorney's working good, you're probably doing 15 days, but just depends. That's the process. Questions?
It's just to play devil's advocate, so where the mortgage comes in, you got your mortgage commitment, everything's okay. And then you decide you wanna open up another credit card charge, cause you have to go through
I'm sorry, I'm glad you brought that up.
final underwriting.
So
Yeah, or you wanna buy furniture.
here's what I tell them from here. They get an offer accepted. I don't know where. I said, look,
Get go.
I'm like, look. Don't go buy anything. I buy food and gas and whatever, but don't go buying a new car and or buying furniture because you don't have enough for the house. Do not do any of that. Do whatever you want after you close. I don't care. Go buy 16 cars and. Don't do it until you close, because even here. The bank is gonna check your credit again before you close, because they're looking for, that's what they're looking for. They wanna make sure that, because sometimes that little bit. You know, a new $200 a month car payment. Which your debt to income ratio out of whack and you don't qualify to buy the house. So. You wanna explain that to people. Don't go buy anything. Big. That you're gonna charge or. We had a buyer. Maria might remember him. Damn if I can remember his name, isn't that terrible? Let's put an offer on a house. During COVID. Did a home inspection, he paid. For the home inspection, he had a $5,000 earnest money deposit. It was some kind of a mason. Labor, well, he lost his job, we got laid off. So he couldn't close on the house. Andre, Martinez. Couldn't close on a house because she wasn't working, getting unemployment, the bank won't count unemployment as income. Got a hold of the agent, I said, look, I'll tell you. So the lady needed the income, at least, it was a screwy situation, a lady selling it, was her and her husband were trying to sell it and move into an apartment somewhere. And they agreed to rent it to this Andre and his wife and 42 kids, I don't know where they all came from, but there was a lot. I'm exaggerating, but I bet there were 10. Some were his, some were hers, and some were both. I couldn't keep track. So we worked hard to get that set up where we had a lease.
Where he was.
Talk about making money. I didn't make any money, but I'm helping the guy, right? So we got a lease, they had to sign the lease and they're paying, I don't know, $1,600, $1,700 a month for rent. Well, then we kept working with him, because sooner or later he was gonna go back to work.
Yeah.
All right. You know, and he didn't go, and he didn't go, and he didn't go, and then he went back to work. Great. So now we're gonna set it up so we could close like in September. So it went almost a year. Screwy deal, and he didn't have enough money to close, so the bank was giving him extra credits, and we worked out the seller was gonna give him concessions. Tried to get a hold of him one day. There isn't any money. Him and his wife and 42 kids took off and went to Disney for 2 weeks. And he came back and they didn't have any money, so they couldn't close.
Just,
So we try to work through that to figure, I can't remember, try to figure out how we could, I don't know, we got more seller concessions or something just so they could close. Then he calls me up and says, Jim, I don't want to tell you this, you know, whatever the hell her name was, Octavia.
yeah,
Octavia and I are getting a divorce.
after they did their whirlwind Disney.
Yeah. I said, whatever. I said, I can tell you this much. You're not getting your $5,000 earnest money deposit
Yeah.
back, because that should go to the seller because you do. And for a while, they weren't even paying the rent. You know, so I don't know why I told you that story, but
Because stuff happens. and-
you run across crazy stuff.
Sometimes they shouldn't use their.
And he should have, and they did. The poor woman. I felt bad for the seller. It wasn't my client, but
Yeah,
I didn't feel bad for my guy. You know,
and they weren't
like a scam.
forthcoming with your, with their information to you. I mean, there's a part that Jim always instills with all of his clients, you establish trust. Because if you can't trust who you're working with and for, then, you just want to sell a house. You don't want to get screwed over.
Never, ever. Hard. Do not ever come across as you're a salesperson. You're trying to sell some, you are. At the end of the day, you're looking to make money, but, don't come across like that. You're here to help you. You're here to advise them to make, I say, I make friends and help people make great decisions. I mean, and that's really what you're doing. That's the process. Do you think a lot of buyers know this? No. That's why it's so important to sit down, because what you're also doing during this maybe an hour, I'm taking longer than that, obviously. What you're doing is you're setting the expectations of what is going to happen going forward. So there's not a lot of surprises. There's going to be surprises, but oh geez, I didn't know that, or I didn't, you want people to know how it works, how the home buying process works, especially in today's crazy market. Because right now, it's worse than last year. Are you feeling it?
I mean, like you said, there's 51 offers on houses and. How do you? 5 of them are gonna be the same.
Because what you also gotta do is you gotta,
Yeah.
you gotta play, you know, you're a real estate salesperson, but you're also a psychologist, you're, because you gotta. You might have to call a buyer up 10 times to say. They didn't take your offer. You know, so you gotta manage that, you gotta manage. Oh, God, no, we're gonna stop because I can, you gotta know how to, and I don't know what to tell you to do, but you gotta, you'll know it when you get to it, you just gotta. Let them know you're here to help them. You know, and sometimes they learn after a couple offers of not being accepted. Maybe I better not do the home inspection. Or maybe I need to give more earnest money deposit, or maybe I could get a gift letter from my uncle and he could give, you know, there's ways to do it. I mean, if they have a rich uncle or whatever. But it's so important to sit down with people so they know. Because most don't. And to be honest with you, there's, what, 3,000 local agents in the Greater Rochester Association of Realtors. There's probably 300 that are any good. Maybe more. Gilberts are good. You know, I mean,
So it's gentlemen.
really, there's probably 300, I'll bet you, 10% that are real good, that sell homes and know the deal and they work with you and they. But the others. They don't know how this process works. That's the problem. I talked to 2 agents today, Keller Williams agents, won't name their names. They're doing an open house Saturday. And I noticed on Facebook last night. They're doing a 3-hour open house. So what are you, crazy? What are you doing a 3-hour open house for? Well, last open house we had so many people come in at once, so we didn't have time. So we figure if we spread it out. No.
They're gonna come when they wanna come.
They're gonna come when they wanna come. And if you lessen the time period, they're all gonna come anyway. Right? People are gonna show up because they want to see your home. How many people came to that open house the other day? 30? I figured it was probably more than that, but that was a lot. 30 groups.
Yeah.
30 groups, so you put 2 or 3 with every group, you know, there's 100 people coming through there in an hour and a half period. That's what you want. So you can go home, do something else. Well, play with your kids, or, you know, these 2 guys are gonna sit there for 3 hours. I said, you're out of your mind. Make it 2 hours if you really feel like you should. All right, so anyway, you're gonna talk, this says Genomay team, it could say Hilbert team, or it could say Brielle, whatever. But you wanna talk about getting you into a home, okay? There's a thing on the bottom that says, how do seller concessions work? God bless you if you can get an offer accepted with seller concessions today, but I'll tell you how that works, because you can. You know, if the house has been on the market a while, you've got a buyer that's getting FHA, for example, FHA mortgage, you can ask for up to 6% seller concessions on an FHA mortgage. Conventional, 3%. Here's how it works. The home is, I try to keep this simple. Home is $100,000. So your buyer could get 6,000 credit at closing, used toward their closing costs, because they're a little short. Okay, so the house is 100,000, you offer them 100,000 and ask for 6% seller concessions. So that means the seller's really only getting $94,000 because they're giving back 6. You with me? That's one way to do it. What you might have to do, if the house is 100 and you need $6,000, you offer them 106,000 for their house. and ask for $6,000 credit at closing. Seller's still getting their $100,000 and your buyer's getting money to help with closing costs. You with me? The house has to appraise for $106,000 because that's what they're borrowing. That's how seller concessions work. Pretty rare. In the last 2-3 years, you could get an offer accepted with seller concessions. But having said that, I just saw somebody put on Facebook last night. They had a closing yesterday, where. What did she put in there? They had a home inspection and the buyer got seller concessions. Christy Chatfield, one of Keller Williams agents. So it can be done, it just. Timing,
So
but
the
that's how seller concessions work.
So was the concession because she had a home inspection, something that maybe they did or didn't want to fix, is that considered a concession and then they worked it out as a credit?
I don't think so. No, that's not a concession. No. Writing an offer, how long do I have to decide? I never quite knew what that line means. Usually you make an offer good for 24 hours. Typically an offer, so if you're writing an offer are due today at 5, so you'd make life of the offer tomorrow at 5. If it doesn't have anything in there and there's not delayed negotiations, and I'm writing an offer today at 1 o'clock, there's no delayed, there's nothing, no other notes in there, I want an answer like within 4 hours. Because I want them to take our offer. Doesn't mean they can't change their mind if they got a better offer, but I don't want to wait till tomorrow to get an answer. How does an inspection period work? We kind of talked on that. Typically, you write in the inspection addendum that you're going to do a home inspection within 5 days. And there's a couple lines that talks about how many days the buyer has to respond to the inspection and how many days the seller has to respond to what you're asking for. The big one is that one. Escalation clause. Other than you two.
Well,
Anybody know how an
understand it either.
Anybody know how an escalation clause works?
Don't you put in there like you'll go a certain monetary value over the highest offer? Or like if someone put in 150, you'd say you'd go $10,000 above the highest offer up to 170 or whatever it is.
Yep, kind of. I don't know if I'd say 10,000, but
Well, you know what I'm saying, you'd be
yeah.
like 2,000, I think.
Right. So here's how it works. You're gonna write an offer, you know there's delayed negotiation, so you're probably gonna get multiple offers. Yeah, what do you want, Buffalo Bills? Nothing new. So the house is 200, let's just say, that's what it's listed for. So you write an offer for 200. Sometimes I've been writing them for even. I know there's multiple offers, I'll write it for 205 or something, you know. With the buyer permission for me to do that. Then you write an escalation, it's an addendum. And you know your buyer, so you say to your buyer, you know, how much do you love this house? I love it, I have to have this house. And you know that their pre-qual could go to 250, I don't know, I'm picking a number. Okay. So you write an escalation clause, it basically says. Will beat any offer. You know, by whatever number you want to put in there, I wouldn't go $10,000, it's good. Always make it something, I try to make it something weird, like I'll say $2,693. So I'll beat any other offer by $2,693 up to $250,000. So if the next best offer is $240,000, my buyer would get it for $242,693. That's how an escalation works.
I always.
Because every agent's gonna write an even number in their. I'll beat it by, everybody's, they're gonna put 2,000, they're gonna put 1,500, they can make yours something weird. Put your birth date in there or something, just because I'll tell you why, it stands out. It doesn't mean. That's a great thing, it makes the listing agent remember you. I
remember it was, and I was like, what the? hell
what's her
is the number
name?
with the
Used to be on our team.
19%? Becky,
No, we sold her house last winter, a year ago. They moved to Philly.
used to be on our team. Oh, Laura,
Laura. Head listing,
her husband's house.
I don't know, we got like 30 offers. But I had this one offer. That. The offer wasn't bad, but it was FHA. But they wrote an addendum in there that said, if you accept our offer. The guy worked for like Vision Hyundai or something, the buyer. He says, we'll give you 2 years worth of free oil changes. No, big deal, all right? I mean, what's an oil change? $50? Get it gone, I don't know. So what was that, a couple $100? But I'm like, damn. That was a good idea. It made me, we didn't take his offer.
There was some creative.
It was something that made me remember the guy. I'm like. I like him, so there's little things you can do. There's a lot of other tricks. I'm gonna do one this afternoon where. I know it's gonna be multiple offers. My guy's gonna do a cash guarantee with the GRB, but I wanna do something special, like offer. An addendum saying, it doesn't have to anything to do with escalation clause, but you write an addendum saying, hey, my buyer will pay your seller. $3,000 at closing for. Closing costs or whatever you wanna do with it, something, just to make it. It's little tricks you gotta do. But that's escalation. Questions? Now. You have in your packet. Fine, you don't need to look at it right this second, or you can. So you want to talk about agents. Okay, and you want to explain that the listing agent is hired by the seller and has fiduciary obligation to get their home sold for the best price and the best terms. That's the listing agent's job. And you're gonna meet with them, remember? You're gonna say, I'm a buyer's agent. You're gonna hire me to have your own representation and negotiating price terms against the listing agent. My job is to get you the home for the least amount of money, the best terms. And then you know what I say next? See this word where it says you're hiring me? Guess what? You don't have to pay. A lot of buyers think they have to pay a buyer's agent. You don't pay me a nickel. Well, how do you get paid? These guys pay me. I work for you, but you don't pay me. How's that sound? Most people are gonna say, that's pretty cool. Now, you may have what's called dual agency, okay, especially with Keller Williams growing so big locally. Pure dual agency is if I have a listing and I happen to show it to you. I work for the seller, but I can write the offer for you. That's pure dual agency, okay? And anytime that were to happen, if you're gonna show a buyer one of your listings, you wanna explain that to them up front. You're gonna explain it to them anyway, because they're gonna sign an agency agreement, but you might say, look, if you don't feel comfortable with that, I can refer you and have another agent write the offer for you. But you want to make sure you explain that, because you don't, in that case, you owe all your fiduciary obligations to the seller. All the stuff you learned in your licensing class about the only thing you'll ever use that you learned in that class, that's agency. Now, you will run across a lot of dual agency with designated agents. What that means is it's a Keller Williams listing. He's a Keller Williams agent. He's going to list the house. You got a buyer, you're going to show the house. You're going to write an offer on his listing. Okay? If I can steal this for 1 second, you mind? Right here. Okay, when you meet with a buyer, you're gonna fill this out and you're gonna say, I represent you as a buyer's agent. Okay? And you're gonna give advanced informed consent for dual agency. You're gonna check that, and advanced consent to dual agency with designated agents. You're gonna check that. Now, you go to write an offer, you're actually gonna have to write up another one of these, because you've got to give the details of that particular offer. So if you're doing a dual agent with debt, you're writing an offer on his listing. You got your name up here, Keller Williams, Greater Rochester. You're gonna just check dual agent with designated sales agent. Okay? Then you're gonna come down here. If dual agent was noted above, your name is appointed to represent the buyer. His name is representing the seller. That's dual agency with designated agent. He's designated to represent the seller. You're designated to represent the buyer. This happens a lot in today's market because there's a lot of Keller Williams listings. Lots. Dual agency, pure dual agency doesn't happen as much. It could happen, but you want to let the buyer know, hey, this is going to be pure dual agency. Are you okay with that? I can't tell you, I'll present your offer, but I can't tell you what to write. And they might say, yeah, that's no problem. And they might say, I don't like that. And you find somebody to write the offer for you, another agent.
Is it still a dual agency if it's outside of like this specific brokerage with Keller Williams?
Nope.
Say like you're selling in Watertown with a different
Correct.
Keller Williams, it's
Right.
different, right?
But you'll come across it quite a bit. But the point I'm making over here, listing agent is hired by the seller. Buyer's agent is hired by you, the buyer, but cool thing is you don't pay me anything. That's good. I don't know, anything. I'm telling you, there's a lot to think. They have to pay you. You just want to make sure they understand. Now, occasionally, we get them all the time, and I'm sure Hilbert team does. We get leads, and you'll come across this. You'll get a lead that says, oh, it's a buyer. Oh, aren't you the listing agent? No, oh, I only want to talk to the listing agent. Why do you want to talk to the listing agent? I have a whole spiel I give them. Why do you want to talk to the listing agent? Well, I'd probably get a better deal. I then explain. Guess what? The listing agent is hired by the seller. They represent the seller, not you. So if you think you're going to get a better deal, it's not going to happen. They're paid to get the seller the best terms at the best price. And then I use the analogy. Look, if you and your husband were going to get a divorce, would you use the same attorney? Well, God, no. Well, the same thing. People down in Avon last spring, I sold them that $400,000 house. I called them, I can't remember what it was. I called, oh, are you a listing agent? No, we only want to work on this. I gave them my whole spiel. Showed them one house for one offer,
Well done.
$400,000. They wanted to work with a listing agent. Cause they thought. People don't get it, they don't understand. But being new agents, you don't either, so that's why we like to go through these classes. But buyers don't know this. I don't necessarily go through this. Questions?
Screwed down, Jim.
I'm sorry?
You scrolled up instead of down.
Yeah, I know. This is so critical that you go through this with a buyer. For a couple reasons, but. You want them to understand the process, and you want them to understand. That you know what the heck you're doing. Don't ever tell anybody you're brand new. Ever. You have a team of people in this building. How many houses did we sell last year? I don't know.
348 last month.
Last month? I'm talking last year, but I don't know, 5,000.
I couldn't tell you.
I probably should have that number somewhere.
I know our numbers.
I know, you've
Yeah.
sold a lot, yeah. I mean, you got a team of people. Use Keller Williams, not just, you're not on a designated team like I'm on and she works for but you're your team, you're a business owner, but. Man, there's more, we sold more houses out of this building or out of Greece or, Gateway, nobody from Gateway.
There's teamwork happening here. You're not on your own.
You're not on your own.
I was just gonna say that.
You have access to some of the brightest people, not me, I know enough to be dangerous, I mean, but really. Don't say I'm brand new, Yeah, we sold, 16,000 houses last year. Always say we. How many did you sell? A few, just. Whatever. My team sold X. If you want to use that, now. You went through this whole process. In one of the rooms, so I keep going back to that. There's a method to my madness. And you always want to say to them, do you have any questions? And then you want to say, is there anything else I could explain to you? Then I say, do you feel comfortable working with me? What do you think they say?
Hell no.
Typically. I've never had anybody tell me any different. I've always had people say, oh my God, yes, when do we start? Really? Because in the middle of all that, what I'm also doing. So I'm gonna toy with them a little bit before I even go into that spiel, right? And I'll say. So we know that this is called the multiple listing service, for any of you that don't know. Right? And I say, let's just keep this simple. They want to be in Greece. And I always set up a search by school district, even if schools aren't important. The reason being, it gives you a bigger picture, of what they could buy. Because you could say, I want to be in Penfield. Well, if you just use like the town of Penfield, as opposed to Penfield schools, you'll get less pictures and less listings than if you use the schools, because the schools sometimes, like Greece goes into Hilton, sometimes it's Hilton schools, but in Greece, you see what I'm saying? So let's say they want to be in Greece. we're gonna use Greece schools. And let's say, the reason I'm using Greece is because Greece is the biggest suburb. Let's say they want to spend somewhere around no more than $200,000. So I might make this search like, yeah, there you go. I might make it 125,000 to 200,000. They gotta have at least 3 bedrooms. And they gotta have, obviously, at least 1 bathroom. This just tells you the problem we're having right now. In Greece, between 125 and 200 with 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, there's 6 houses for sale. That's like asinine. But it is what it is. What are you gonna do? You know, so. Now, see the plus I have there, 3 plus? It's gonna show us everything with a minimum of 3 bedrooms. It could have 16 bedrooms, but it has at least 3. If I just put 3 in there, it'll only show us houses with 3 bedrooms. It won't show us houses between 125 and 200 that has 4 bedrooms. So always put plus. Same with bathrooms. I put 1 plus. So it'll show us everything with 1 bathroom, 1.5 baths, 2 baths, 16 baths, whatever the heck it is. Okay. Those are all the houses. And as you're sitting with them, they'll say, oh yeah, can you bring up that one on Goethals? My cousin lives over there. I'd love to live on that street. You know, it's 190. Yeah, can I see that? Sure. Because I tell them I'm going to set them up on this search. I haven't done it yet, right? Yeah, I'll look at some, and then I'll say, okay, how do you feel about me? Are we good? Oh yeah, you're the best. That's good. That's when you pull out the buyer's agency agreement. Okay, and you say, look, this puts me to work for you. And you have them fill it out. Buyer tenant name, the broker is Keller Williams, represented by your name. Okay, more than likely, they're looking for, at number 2, they're looking for residential property. Okay. Term of agency. Okay, if this were today, I put today's date, and I always make these for 1 year. And I explain to them, look, we're gonna find a house well before 1 year, but I just make it for 1 year. Oh, yeah, that's great. I love you. You're great. Right? I'm telling you. Compensation of broker. Okay, you want them to initial that on that line by A. Does everybody have that? Transaction fee. You put 3% of in that. Okay? And you want to explain to them. Look. If I show you houses, we're writing offers. And then for some reason I don't answer the phone, and you can't find me, we're gonna rip this agency agreement up. Okay? But if I'm working hard for you and I show you a house, and then you call me up and you say, look, my cousin just got her real estate license and she's gonna write the offer for me. Like, okay, you can do that. Well, guess what? You're gonna pay Keller Williams, not me. You're gonna pay the broker 3%. Oh, I would never do that. I said, I have to put it in there. And you have to sign this. This puts me to work for you. That's a buyer agency agreement. If you do all this stuff the right way and you show them all these things, that they're gonna sign this for you. If they don't want to sign it, obviously you haven't answered the question that they must have. Well, there's something about you they just don't like. But if they don't want to sign this, that would be a red flag to me that you're going to show them houses and then you're not going to hear from them and they're going to waste your time. Because your time is more valuable than showing houses to people that aren't interested. Trust me. Questions? Does everybody know how to set this up for a buyer?
So if off of this, then you say you are, just put that in, that's what they want, at least 3 bedrooms, at least 1 full bath. And you already just put this in front of them, is there a way to just quickly make that a search or for them, or do you have to go in? Like the auto email, I mean, like auto search, or do you have to go into the auto email to set it up?
No, you just click save at the bottom.
Much.
Oh,
I hit
perfect,
save,
perfect,
new auto email,
right there.
create a new contact, okay? This is where you're gonna put their first name and last name. You're gonna put, you always wanna have that box checked where it says BCC me a copy of all the emails. You're gonna get a copy of every email they get, okay? And then in subject, you just might put, Grease Homes, 125 to 200 or whatever you want to put in there. I never change up. So the initial email they're gonna get is gonna have this blurb in there. Okay. Gonna have your name, your picture, your phone number. Okay. I always set them up so that I do them. This box here where it says ASAP, I check that box instead of daily. The reason being is, so once they get this initial search that you set up for them, it's going to their email immediately. You're gonna be copied. Okay, welcome to my portal is what it's gonna say. But then every second that there's a new listing that hits the search criteria that you just set up, they're gonna get it immediately. Now, you can change this anytime you want. They might say, Grease, hey, you know what, let's look in Arundecoit too. Boom, go in and put, if you're doing it by schools, you gotta do East Arundecoit, West Arundecoit. If they only wanna be, I don't know, it's screwy. Maria lives in Penfield, but there could be some kids that live in Penfield go to Webster School. There's a border there where it's both, I always use schools. Now, unless it's somebody looking in, I gotta be in North Winton Village in the city. I wouldn't use Rochester City Schools because you get a million. There is a place you can click in there in neighborhoods, North Winton Village, Wheelburg, those kinds of things, if they're only looking in those areas. There's lots of ways you can play with it. Then what happens? Here's what happened. It happened with me. People are working with you and you're sending them home, you're showing them home. And before you know it, they're gonna send you a text with a link from Zillow. Well, how about this house? Well, geez, Brad, this house is in Henrietta. We don't have that in your search, number one. And then I say, what in the hell are you doing on Zillow? Because you want to explain to people, stay off of Zillow, stay off of Realtor.com, stay off of Redfin, stay off of Trulia, all those sites. Why? Why? I always go on Realtor.com. Anytime a house is listed, it has to go in what is called the MLS, multiple listing service. Where do you think Realtor.com, Zillow, and all those sites get their information from? Where do you think they just make them up? No, they get them from our MLS. So when you see those ads on TV, I love them. We have more listings than anyone. They don't have any listings. So keep them off of those sites. There's another reason why you want to keep them off those sites.
Realtor ads on those sites.
How does Realtor.com and Zillow make their money? They get paid. It's for real estate agents, is what it's for.
Yeah, referral fees. They refer to a real estate agent.
So in other words, Hilbert team, I'm just making this up, they buy leads. Sure you do. Probably Zillow.
Third parties, I mean, everyone uses them, yeah. Third party sites, Realtor, Zillow stuff.
Realtor and
Yeah,
Zillow,
of course.
but you pay for that. I don't know if you know that or not. You buy zip codes. So they buy, whatever, I'm making this 14609, 14626. And so if your buyer is on, or any buyer is on Realtor.com or Zillow, and it's, oh my God, I love that house, and they press that button that says, I want more information, right? Guess what happens? Their phone's gonna ring off the hook.
Well, the
I
other-
probably called them, you
the other
know.
thing that I've
You're the
seen-
5th person that's called me in the last hour.
I'm your agent.
Well, then I'm the guy.
The other thing I've seen is like, I had this one couple that I'm working with and they started, well, we want to be in Webster. So I set them up for a search and then they started sending me things that were Henrietta. And I'm like, well, if you're here and you're looking at other properties, it'll let me know.
Then you
If
need to
you're
have
on
a-
Zillow.
You need
it
to have
doesn't
another
communicate.
conversation with them.
Yeah.
Another sit down, or the next time you show them a house and say, look,
But
let's talk, let me add Henrietta, where else you wanna live, and I'll change your search. Because you know what's gonna happen? Especially if you don't have one of these, guess what's gonna happen? They're gonna press that button for that house in Henrietta. Cause they don't think.
But I can see
Some
what they're
slick
looking at on
agent
there.
is gonna call them up and say, hey, you wanna see that house tomorrow too? Yeah. They're gonna meet them at the house, and they're gonna write an offer on that house, and you're gonna be SOL.
Yeah.
Really?
But my point about the two different platforms is I can see that they looked at Henrietta by looking here. If they look
No,
on
you can't.
Zillow,
Well, if you have Henrietta set up, you can see they're looking at it.
I can click on what their activity and see what they saw.
Well, if Henrietta's not in your search, you can't. I mean, I have,
Maybe I have the order backwards then.
yeah. Here's everybody I have set up on an auto email. You know, some haven't been on in a long time, some are just goofy.
So like if you
you
click
know.
on
This
that
girl
one
was on it
yesterday.
Tuesday. No, it just has her. Unless she hearted something, you know, I wouldn't know what she's looking at. All I know is that she's looking at the search.
That's what.
All it is your buyer looked at whatever it is came to her email from the search that's set up. But if she's now sending you something from Henrietta, then add Henrietta to her search.
Sure.
That's all.
My point is if she's just scrolling on Zillow,
Don't let her scroll on. Tell them,
Never
I'm
mind.
telling, no, I'm serious, because somebody is gonna steal her.
that wasn't what I was saying. What I was saying is that's what I tell them, is if you're doing it on here, I have more, you're communicating with me. If you're doing it on Zillow, I have no idea of what you looked at or what you did. But if you're communicating with me, then I can modify.
So
your
let's start
search.
over.
I
The
can-
conversation has to be. This is where all the listings are. There's no listings that Zillow has or Realtor.com or any of those sites. Here's the problem. You don't believe me. I could see the way you're looking at me.
I just could see, I could just see someone coming back and saying, well, if they're both the same, why wouldn't I use what I've always used? To some extent, I think you have to have a.
Because they steal their information, they don't steal. They pull their information from here. Zillow, Realtor.com, and guess when they pull it?
Later.
Tomorrow.
Don't they sell it to average 12 other third-party sites?
Yeah, I mean,
They register on one?
Even then, you.
how many times has somebody gone I've had people call me, hey, I'm on Zillow, I wanna go see this house. I go on the MLS, it's not even in there. Right? Zillow will put shit on their website. Hey, come see this beautiful house, 69.9. It's fake. They put that on there, so your buyer presses that button saying, I want more info. An agent calls and says, well, that house is no longer available. What are you looking for? How soon you looking to make a move? They're having the conversation that I was having. That's the scripting. How soon you want to make a move? How you gonna pay for it? You know, blah, blah, blah. Where do you want to live? Okay, I'll tell you what, let's meet tomorrow. It's either 6 or 7 in my office and we could talk about the home buying process. That's all it's for. It's real estate agents pay money every month for that so that they get leads. That's all it is. I'm not saying it's a bad site, but that's the purpose of Zillow and Realtor.com. They put these wonderful ads on TV and let us get you home. Blah, blah, blah. It's all a bunch of baloney. They don't have any listings. These are the listings.
I can see clients preferring Zillow because that's all they've ever used. And like friends and family were looking and they'll send them houses, of course. But then, I love when they text you and send you the Zillow link and say, yeah, that was in your email today. I already sent it to you. Are you interested? I
That's
already did the
okay.
work for
You know what? And Karen will tell you, if your buyers want to go on Zillow or Realtor.com, what do you tell them? You just let their hands, but
Right ahead, but the information is probably wrong.
yeah.
There you go. Easy. Right?
I mean, you're not making anything up. This is where listings are.
Right.
You list a home tomorrow, it goes in here. It doesn't go to Zillow or Realtor.com, it goes here. Anyway.